Hi, I'm Ian, and I'll be starting off our presentation for the Ashland Walking Tours template application, which we have worked on for the past few months. First, let me introduce you to our client for this project. This is Peter Finkel. He's the founder of Walk Ashland LLC, the creator of the Walk Ashland website and blog, and hosts in-person walking tours in Ashland. Peter is a master when it comes to knowledge about the history of Ashland, which he has lived in for over 30 years. He's conducted countless hours of interviews and research with anything related to Ashland and has expressed to us his desire to expand his ability to share that information with more people. So this brings us to the Walk Ashland app. Peter believes that an application which simulates his in-person walking tours would help him achieve that goal. For the past 2 years, Peter has been working with the SOU Capstone and has had 2 other groups from 2020 and 2021 develop the first versions of the app for both iOS in 2020 and the Android version in 2021. Both apps are mostly complete, but there's currently no way of adding new content to the apps like a new tour without being able to write code. This is where me and Jordan enter the picture. Introducing the Walking Tours Template Software, or WTT, is a standalone Java program that runs both on Windows or Mac OS. WTT gives a user with no coding knowledge the ability to create a new tour using a visual interface that's easy to use, and when finished, generates a file that you simply upload to the app's method of storage retrieval. When we were gathering information from Peter to determine exactly what he wanted from WTT, he made it clear to us that he simply wanted a way to add a new walking tour to the Walk Ashland app himself without having to code anything, which became our largest priority during development. After further interviewing, we compiled a list of specific features he wanted WTT to have. The list of requested features goes as follows: the ability to create a new tour with an easy-to-use visual interface, the ability to create a new tour with no coding experience, and some specific elements of a tour which needed to be included were the ability to add text, audio clips, images, price information, and GPS coordinates. Another request was the ability to upload a file generated by WTT to Firebase for the Walk Ashland app to access. And finally, the last request was the ability for the Walk Ashland app to construct and display a new added tour using the files uploaded to Firebase, which were generated by WTT. Jordan and I have worked hard these last few months trying to get these features implemented, and we are glad to say that we've managed to get just about everything finished except the last request. For version 2.0, we are planning to give Walk Ashland app the ability to construct a tour using the file created by WTT. As a team, we are confident that we'll be able to complete this by version 2.0's release and are open to working on and implementing any additional features that Peter requests from us. An example of this might be the ability to edit a tour file which already exists. Now I'll give an overview of the tools that we used during development. This project gave us some freedom when it comes to programming languages. The Walk Ashland app was written mostly in Java, along with a little bit of XML, so we opted to write WTT entirely in Java for cross-compatibility with the Walk Ashland app. The top right image is an example of what you'll see while using WTT. The bottom left is a screenshot from the Project Explorer from the Walk Ashland app. As you can see, it's pretty much all Java. For version control, we stuck with the tried and true Git and opted to use GitHub Desktop since the Walk Ashland app was being hosted on GitHub. We decided to use GitHub Desktop over the command line to avoid potentially time-consuming errors, which we believed would be easier to tackle while using the desktop app. For our IDEs, we used Android Studio for the Walk Ashland app portion of the project, since it was developed in Android Studio by the previous Capstone Years group, and also because it has a cool built-in phone emulator that you can see on the far right, which helps a lot with debugging and testing. For the WTT portion, we just use Eclipse since it's a program written purely in Java. We also used some Eclipse plugins which made visually designing the app super simple. Since we were adopting the Android version of Walk Ashland, we also needed to adopt its external dependencies. Walk Ashland depends on these 2 services. The first is Firebase, which was used as a storage solution and contained things like images and audio, which the audio retrieved in real time for use in the app. With the creation of WTT, now it's going to be used to store walking tour files, which the Walk Ashland app will download and use. The second tool that the project uses is Google Play Console. This is a dashboard for maintaining everything to do with the Walk Ashland app. It's used primarily for updating the app on the Google Play Store, but also includes the testing versions. Anytime we make a change to how the Walk Ashland app functions, we need to upload the build to the Google Play console. Finally, for communication during development, we relied mostly on email, but between Jordan and I, we stuck mostly to Discord for voice and video calls. It was an overall laid-back experience between us and our client, and we look forward to continuing development for version 2.0. Now I'm going to hand off the presentation to Jordan.
So I'm going to be going through the rest of our presentation here, starting with the front-end software of our version 1 demo, which is the part that the client will actually interact with. So we created this in Java since it would be compatible with both Windows and Mac, and the client expressed his desire to work on this from his Mac computer. And our front-end software, it provides a tour creation process where information about a walk is provided, and then information and media that will be attached to nodes or the stops in the walk is provided afterwards. This software allows us to control the data entry to prevent situations where the app could receive invalid data and be otherwise unable to create a tour. And the use of Java allows us to utilize a process called serialization to serialize objects that were created in the desktop application when gathering information about the walk, and to share this data between the desktop application and the Android app. The Java serialization allows for these tour objects to be deserialized in the Android app containing all data necessary to construct a walking tour. So going through what our software actually does, the front-end software, we start up here in step 1. This is the process the client will go through. And he enters information about a walk, such as the name, the description, the number of stops, and the price of the tour. And then when he clicks begin, this creates a tour that has the information he specified, such as the number of stops, and then he can go through each stop and enter coordinates where it's actually located, a description about it, and add audio and images to it that will be seen on the app. So when he's done that for all the nodes, he can then save the tour, and by saving the tour, it'll create a file on the desktop or in the same directory where the program is, and this file can then be uploaded to Firebase. So this kind of begins the back-end portion of the software, where once the file is up in the Firebase storage, it can then be downloaded from the app, which will create a tours file on the phone, which is storage that's related to the app, and it will save the tour to that file. And by saving the tour to that file, it will then deserialize the tour object to retrieve its internal variables as data, which will be used to create a walking tour. So we can see here that it has the audio file that was attached to the demo file, and it has the image file as well. And it will have all the other internals that are not needing to be recreated, like the audio and the image file. It's going to have those internals of the object as well. And then this is an example of the app, of what the app will look like when it's actually taken the data and turned it into a walking tour, which is in the same style and spirit as the first walking tour, which was hard-coded into the app, and you can see that here. So for testing, our software clearly had two different testing portions, the external and the internal portion of it. For the test traceability matrix, we were mostly focused on the external portion, which is what the client would actually see and interact with. And for that, we needed to test the desktop application software on both Windows and Mac to ensure that all functionality was preserved across both platforms. And we also needed to ensure that it was easy to use and provided all necessary functionality that can be seen in the traceability matrix here to the client. And as of this version, our test traceability matrix has passed all of those tests, and we're mostly focused on internal testing at this point to make sure that things like Java object serialization, deserialization, and media file reconstruction all work to ensure that all data is preserved and able to be retrieved when moving across the two platforms. And we also still need to test the Android app's ability to actually recreate new walking tours from the data provided within the tour object file. So for divisions of labor, since we're a smaller team, we didn't have as many hard-defined divisions of labor. We both had everybody provide input on the layout and planning of the software. We both wrote various parts of the code to help create the software. But for me specifically, I took up the role of writing a good amount of product documentation, and I also facilitated client communication to reach out when we had updates, questions, or just set up meetings when necessary. For Ian, he designed a lot of the visual interface for our template application, and he also did a good portion of the bug testing, and he reviewed pretty much all the code and documentation that was written to give the A-OK on that. So in conclusion, what we learned from doing what we've done in this project so far, we learned about the process of using Java to create Android applications and how it differs from Java desktop applications. And we learned about kind of the compatibilities between the two and how they can interact. We also gained experience in working with a client and maintaining flexibility in our plans to meet their needs and desires. We both feel we've developed problem-solving skills to tackle problems as they arose in development, having to come up with creative solutions very frequently to work around difficult issues. And the impact we see this having on the client and the community is that we feel the software will have created an opportunity for the client, Peter, to continue growing his Walk Ashland brand and spreading his knowledge and passion for the history and culture of Ashland to everyone that's interested in it. And we also feel that the software will have facilitated the ability for the Walk Ashland app to remain updated with new content as necessary, and that will ensure its ability to grow as an Ashland community resource. So what's coming up next for us is that we're going to continue working on features planned for version 2, and we're also going to be receiving feedback from the client and make sure that what we're creating is still staying in line with his vision for the product. So that's our presentation, and thank you for listening.